I bet this is the time that you are more thankful than ever that you relocated to Miami, right? This is
I
good.
mean, boy, the luck of it.
Just seeing the sun behind you, it feels aggressive on your part to do that.
Actually, it's like been overcast, so we're all a little cranky here.
Oh, I do love the contrast in styles. You're green and you're blue in your color, and I'm gray and black here. It's like very Miami, Vermont.
Right, I did that in a very specifically because I thought, even as I'm saying, I'm turning it all off. To me, I'm so visual, and from doing enough Zooms, everything matters.
What are you doing to keep sane in these times? I mean, obviously you run a dance company, so you're around your dancers a lot. How do you stay connected, and do you do work? What do you do?
My energy is so much more toward my family and creating an environment for our family and my kids, and kind of how we can go through this in a way that is, informed but grounded. And the metaphor that I have right now as an artist, as a dance artist, is feeling like, when you're in an airplane and you're in a bunch of the clouds before you either go all the way up or all the way down. So it's that sense of limbo where you can't see anything, but there's nothing you can do about it. And so the one thing that is really, I find the most satisfying is actually still working with my students. And I gave my students, so I teach at New World School of the Arts, and I teach a dance composition class for juniors in college. And I've been working with them for almost a year as it is. So we have a pretty established way of working. And this final project that I gave them during this time is called Personal Meets Global. And to help them navigate who they are within this global context with what they do. And so how do you express your personal experience of what you're going through, but working in a collaboration of four artists, so there's total 4 per group. Okay. And how do you connect your collective experiences to this global context? And how do you use technology and your gift as dance makers to help express and find those connections between the solitary moment you have to a collective with your peers, and then connect that to a greater global experience so that they feel less isolated and they understand it within a larger context, that, what they do can actually be very practical to help them process what they're going through. In giving feedback to the students on these final projects, which they're going to do, by recording themselves on their phone, and then they upload it to Vimeo, blah, 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 and then I get feedback, is just that ability to literally go frame by frame, the amount of detail that I could give them in feedback. Wow. And having them really look at the frame and say, okay, well, look behind you. See that mirror? That mirror is really interesting to me as a viewer. I know it's just your room, but pay attention to that. And you, in relation to time and space and your environment, it's such a way to hammer home. And it forced me to really concentrate deeply on the detail. And I found that rigor very satisfying. And I think I'd like to apply that somehow to, future ways of either working or coaching, mentoring.
Talking this morning to a friend of mine, Ray Vega. He's a trumpet player here. He's been in all the Latin jazz bands forever. He's a Bronx guy, and he settled here to teach at UVM. And he was kind of echoing what you were saying. Like he feels like an actual quiet. Like he's not driven to play the trumpet or driven to compose. And he says some mornings he wrestles with himself. Like, shouldn't I be like challenging myself to compose? And he's like, that's not what I'm feeling. I write it out, and he was working with students, does lessons on the phone, but he says he feels like it's more time for quiet and reflection. And nobody wants to hear my Plague Symphony.
Yeah, yeah. I think I agree with that. And I think it also is a good time to ask yourself, you know, what is my role going to be? What is this going to look like? What will my role be? And I think it's going to be really different. It's going to be a different, you know, than the hustle that we've been doing for the past decade or whatnot, that is a very familiar tune, but also has its emptiness, you know?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so
Yeah,
I
I
agree
know.
with him
I can relate to that.
about that tug of war. Maybe, you know, maybe I quietly have my fingers crossed that something more meaningful will come out of it. But I feel my brain is usually really fast, and I have a hard time keeping up with it. It's a little too fast, like a hummingbird brain.
Yeah.
And it's like constantly going and hustle and go and want to be challenged and, you know, strive for things I can't get and strive even harder. And that's always been my engine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's completely gone.
Wow.
It's just gone. I don't,
From sitting indoors during this COVID time.
I don't know. Everything just went on pause. It doesn't feel like a bad thing.
Right.
It's just, you know, it's kind of nice to sit and wonder. But it's so big what's happening that I think it's more a mechanism of survival to just focus on the hibernation of our family, and then talk with friends, talk with other dancers, and just be as extreme. I mean, I don't know, just be as present as possible.
You were saying how things are going to change. That seems to be coming up like we will come out of this different than we went in. Do you have any vague idea what that even looks like, or is it really just the unknown that we're kind of grappling with?
I have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that's floating around in my brain is, you know, how can I be not as much part of what will dance do for me anymore, or, you know, that kind of grabby feeling of, you know, getting this grant, getting this, you know, gig, that whole gig economy. I feel kind of starving for being part of the brainstorm, being part of the producer, being part of the, like a visionary conversation around the field and the role of artists in the field. And I don't know what that means. But I do, I mean, even leading up to this time, I think there was such a shifting landscape that was starting to make itself even more explicit around, you know, voices that need to be heard and voices that have been pushed to the side a lot for a long time, and around funding organizations and presenting organizations, the complexities around that. And I feel like that was just crystallizing. And then this thing just slammed it. And so I think it's going to be important as we stand up and as we look around when that time comes, to observe where we are and see the voices, you know, again, like the voices that do need to be heard. And how, I don't know, how do we work collectively in that way?
Right.
You know, so I don't know.
I guess my worry would be, because I agree that those conversations were bubbling more and more up to the surface, and were things that you had to navigate. And it was a beautiful kind of moment. And I wonder now that we are clearly going to come out of this in an economic, whatever, catastrophe, not good. It just goes instantly back to a sort of a consumerist fallback, where organizations are back on the same footing, just because of the poor economics of everybody. I mean, you hope not.
Yeah,
I could see it being that way too.
Yeah, almost out of people wanting to survive, they're going to take things on that are just going to be more mainstream, or, you know, quote unquote palatable. Yeah. But gosh, I mean, who knows? I think it's a real unknown. I mean, I'm actually so interested to have more conversations with people like you, and Eric Fliss, and, you know, folks, presenters that I know and funders that I know, to say, like, what does this look like to you? Right. Also the Crusher, you know, some of the more prominent dance festivals, you know, they're not happening. And so all of that,
ABF and Jacob's Pillow. I went to Jacob's Pillow twice a year up here. It's like little fairyland out there in the woods. Like, it's like going into Midsummer Night's Dream. That's what it always reminds me of.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. And
you've been there, right?
Dates. Yeah.
Have you been to the Dream Away Lodge?
Yeah.
I love dinner at the Dream Away Lodge. It's one of the things I look forward to next year.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it feels unknowable.
And now it just seems like I'm in sort of this Groundhog Day directed by Ingmar Bergman
Yeah.
situation. I love Bergman, so it's not that bad. It's
Right.
not as bad as it would be for some people.
Right. Yeah.
I'll get to bump into Lee Ullman somewhere around here.
Or maybe it's a Fellini version where it's kind of fascinating, but you don't know where you're headed.
That's right. It's disturbing. At some point, I behave so badly. I'm like, oh my god, that's fun.
Of course, we will endure, and I really do think, without sounding too cliche, I really do think that there's going to be some innovative thinking coming of this, and I'm looking forward to that part of it.
I think I am too. It's the old adage about crises bringing opportunity, right?
Yeah. The Flynn, the people who are diehards for you all, they will expect, I think, this like beautiful, edgy mission that you all have. And it's not edgy for the sake of being edgy. Mm-hmm. It's formed, it's meaningful. And so I think the community that the presenter has built will actually, that relationship, I think, is going to be vital.
Yeah, I think we're already seeing it appear. I mean, we've had, a lot of incredible support coming out for the Flynn, and just there's nothing to be angry at, so I don't really expect people to be angry. I mean, no offense, if I still lived in Florida, I would expect people to be irrationally angry about it.
Yeah.
There just need to be a little more of that kind of temper would go around. And up here, everybody is completely understanding. Well, this has been great. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just wanted to call and say hey and have a little chat about this. I sat in front of my two dancers just because I was going to talk to you. So
I know I've noticed that frame, the like nice diagonal frame, like
it's an unfinished wall. I keep waiting to put other stuff up there. But I got those at a pawn shop in Florida for $5 a piece. I love them so much. My go-go girls. They go everywhere with me. So.
It was awesome connecting with you.
It was great. Enjoy Florida. I'm going to enjoy this great Vermont day, and let's stay in touch.
Oh, that'll happen for sure.
I really appreciate you taking the time, Adele. I appreciate it so much.